Episode 21, Daimler and Maybach's first automobile, the motor carriage. On January 29, 1886, with the Motorwagen he had built in 1885, Carl Benz finally obtained the world's first automobile patent from the German government under the name, a vehicle powered by the force generated by gasoline combustion, DRP 37435. Carl Benz's Motorwagen is recorded as the first gasoline-powered automobile, as Benz and Daimler completed their gasoline vehicles around the same time. But Benz had already built a gasoline engine in 1879. Therefore, the prevailing view is that Carl Benz's automobile is the first gasoline-powered car. The Motorwagen, built in 1886 and considered the origin of world automobile history, has slightly different specifications from the one built in 1885. The Motorwagen built in 1886 was equipped with a surface carburetor and an ignition system, completing the previously unfinished Petroleum engine. This single-cylinder, four-stroke horizontal Petroleum engine produced 0.85 horsepower at 200 RPM, making it far more efficient than gas at the time. With a displacement of 954 cc, it reached a top speed of 16 km/h and adopted a heat siphon water cooling system and a drip feed lubrication method. Of the two Motorwagons built in 1886, one is still in operable condition and preserved at the Deutsches Museum in Munich. At the time Benz received the world's first petroleum automobile patent for the Motorwagen, Daimler and Maybach, unaware of this, gained confidence from their first petroleum-powered motorcycle, the Reitwagen, and set their next goal on equipping a four-wheeled carriage with the engine. One day in April 1886, after finishing his conversation with Eduard Sarrazin, Daimler immediately entered the red brick workshop, where Maybach was designing a four-wheeled carriage. As Daimler walked into the workshop, Maybach noticed that his meeting with Sarrazin had been quite lengthy. Daimler explained that he had refused Sarrazin's request for the right to sell the engine in France, as it was not yet ready for commercial sale. Maybach described Sarrazin as a determined and passionate man, recalling that he had been visiting Daimler almost every month since last October. Daimler intended to grant Sarrazin the rights to sell the engine in France once he deemed it commercially viable. Maybach agreed, remarking that having such a passionate person as a business partner would be reassuring. Maybach then shared his thoughts on the ongoing design of the four-wheeled carriage. He estimated that installing the Petroleum engine onto the carriage could be completed within a day and suggested starting the work on April 25th. Daimler was looking at the design plans when he suddenly froze upon hearing Maybach's proposal. He had just remembered that April 26th was his wife Emma's birthday. Maybach smiled as he looked at Daimler. He had intended for the first four-wheeled Petroleum automobile to be a gift for Daimler's wife, Emma. On April 24th, Daimler and Maybach finalized the carriage design and placed an order late in the afternoon with W. Wimpf and Sohn, a company in the nearby town, for a sturdy and sleek two-seater carriage called the American Carriage to be delivered on the morning of the 25th. The next morning, the beautiful two-seater, four-wheeled carriage was delivered, and Daimler and Maybach moved it into the workshop for modifications. Wishing to keep their Petroleum engine a secret for the time being, the two carried out the modifications privately within the red brick workshop. First, they removed the front and rear axles, replacing the front with a steering axle and installing a drive axle at the rear, connected to the engine via a belt. Underneath the two-seater bench, they installed a more compact yet more powerful Petroleum engine than the one used in the Reitwagen. After completing the modifications exactly as planned within a day, the two men looked at the world's first four-wheeled Petroleum automobile, the motor carriage, with satisfied smiles. The next day, on the early morning of April 26, 1886, Daimler went inside his house to find his wife Emma in the kitchen. He took Emma's hand and asked her to come outside with him. Emma suggested having breakfast first, but Daimler urged her to come quickly. Daimler led Emma to the front porch and opened the door. Momentarily blinded by the bright sunlight, Emma soon noticed Maybach standing outside, next to a small and beautiful two-seater, four-wheeled carriage. Daimler wished Emma a happy birthday and introduced the carriage as the motor carriage, which he and Maybach had prepared for her. Emma was moved to tears upon receiving the carriage as a gift on the early morning of her birthday. However, she found it strange that there was no horse to pull the carriage. Daimler explained that this carriage did not need a horse and asked Maybach to start the engine. As Maybach moved to the back of the carriage and operated the starter, a strange noise emerged, and the carriage began to tremble. Emma widened her eyes and asked Daimler what was happening. Daimler explained that the carriage had been modified and was different from traditional steam or gas-powered automobiles, as it was smaller and equipped with a powerful engine. He added that this was likely the world's first four-wheeled petroleum automobile. The carriage that Daimler and Maybach gifted to Emma was the world's first four-wheeled petroleum automobile, featuring a single-cylinder, 250c, 1.1 horsepower petroleum engine, capable of reaching a maximum speed of 16 km/h. It was equipped with a five-wheel steering mechanism, where turning the front crossbar handle moved the front wheels, along with the axle, and a small round handle activated the brakes by pressing wooden blocks against the wheels. It also featured a spring suspension, a radiator, a clutch, a two-speed transmission, and a differential gear primitive yet remarkably advanced driving mechanisms that no one had imagined at the time. Overcome with emotion at receiving the world's first four-wheeled petroleum automobile, Emma shed tears of joy and gave Daimler a deep kiss. Watching them, Maybach smiled and announced that the carriage was ready to be driven. As Daimler looked at Emma, she took his hand and walked toward the automobile. Daimler told Maybach that they would take a short drive around the neighborhood and added that this morning would likely be filled with delicious food. Maybach bid them farewell, telling them to take their time. The carriage, modified by Daimler and Maybach, could accommodate only one person in the front seat and one in the back seat. Daimler took the driver's seat while Emma sat in the back. As the carriage set off, the world's first four-wheeled petroleum-powered automobile took its first step into the world. Daimler drove the automobile slowly. With his wife, filled with happiness, sitting in the back seat, Daimler circled the yard a few times before heading onto the road and beginning to drive slowly. During their 16-kilometer journey, the townspeople they encountered were shocked to see Daimler and Emma's strange carriage. At that time, automobiles with gas engines were extremely rare, and most were steam-powered vehicles. People were accustomed to seeing steam-powered automobiles emitting smoke from their chimneys, but a carriage without a coal-burning boiler or a chimney, making strange noises while speeding along, was beyond their comprehension. Thus, the motor carriage that Daimler and Maybach created as a birthday gift for Emma, along with Benz's Motorwagen, became the ancestors of the gasoline automobiles we drive today.